You're listening to Working Forward, a future of work focused podcast from People Forward Network. These episodes pave the road ahead, helping us confidently step into the future as a leader who moves people forward. Let's go.
I'm Laurie Shakur, host of Putting the Human Back in Human Resources, a series on working forward. I sat down with our producer to share my personal why for creating this series. You'll hear how my previous roles and experiences brought me to where I am today, and you'll get a sneak peek of what you can expect from future episodes. I'd love to connect with you. Find me on LinkedIn, Laurie Shakur.
And welcome to this edition of Working Forward. Today, we are talking with Laurie Shakur. She is the Global HR Executive with Session AI. Welcome, Laurie. Thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you, Sean. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, I'm glad to have you here. This is going to be an exciting conversation. So I want to dive in, like right off the bat. Let's just take this right in. Your LinkedIn profile. That's right. I've been on your LinkedIn profile. Your LinkedIn profile says innovative, fast-paced, people-first companies hire me to build, harmonize, and improve. First off, I want to say, whoever helped you craft that, if you crafted that on your own, whatever, that is fantastic. Second of all,
thank you.
Second of all, can you just kind of tell me a little bit about your journey to being the VP of HR at Session AI?
Yes, thank you for that, Sean. I appreciate the kind words about my profile. And I do believe that companies bring me in to build, harmonize, and improve. And that's exactly what Session AI asks of me. So I've got a long career of big company. So I have worked at large global organizations. And after number of years, I decided, let me try something different. I'm in such close proximity to Silicon Valley, and I love what the startup mindset speaks to, right? All the potential and all the opportunity. And so I set out on a quest. I intentionally began looking for startups, and Session AI was an ideal pick for me. Specifically, they are starting in an unknown industry that they're launching. The whole concept of in session marketing is new. And so I was excited about being on the forefront of something new from a technological perspective. And they're small. We're a small global team of less than 200. And for me, because I do genuinely enjoy people, I have the opportunity to personally get to know every employee, and that's so rewarding. And as a people leader, I get to learn what drives them, what motivates them, and really what recognition and rewards can look like. And so for me, Session AI just made sense. It's the people, it's the product that we're launching, and it's the culture of the company.
One thing I really like about the startup world is, it is so important to get these HR things right from the beginning rather than backtracking 10 years down the road, realizing that you've got problems.
Oh,
So you talked about, getting to know the people, and especially at this stage. What about you? What fires you up most about the work that you get to do there?
so as my LinkedIn profile mentions, I get to build. So my wonderful predecessor, Mona, when I went through the interview process, and she and I remain friends to this day, she shared with me that the company is right on the cusp of needing to go to the next version of itself from a people function. So I literally, for the first time in my career, was able to come in and build everything myself. With older, larger companies, there's always an infrastructure and an ecosystem in play that I would have to harmonize or improve. But in this instance, it's just all green field. So, literally, from building out meaningful policies that are inclusive to processes and programs that really do engage and develop employees to building a culture of wellness and well-being and introducing coaching and mentoring and just other aspects that larger companies often take for granted. I get to launch them and with such receptivity and zeal from the employees. We've got a large group of earlier career stage employees. Many, this is their first job right out of college. So it's so exciting that I can bring in development and coaching and other leadership attributes to help them on their career.
When you look at kind of, I think how we get to where we are, and I was talking to you before we hit the record button a little bit about my journey. Uh, I really am kind of interested in what helped you identify that this particular, I don't want to say line of work, but more kind of like the HR field and the people field. Like, how did you know that that was where you wanted to land? Was there a path you took or something that kind of, tripped the button for you where you said, this is definitely where I need to be?
Yeah, I wish I could say it was planned. Funny story, I majored in marketing, so I always had aspirations of working for an ad agency. I ended up in sales, and then I ended up getting into an analyst role with minimal talking, just lots of numbers. And I had a wonderful HR leader at that time, and it wasn't called HR back then, it was still called personnel. I had a wonderful
Yes.
personnel manager. I'm dating myself a bit, Sean. And I'll never forget, she came up to me. Her name is Vera Stomenkovich. And Vera said, you're so good at talking and connecting with people. You're not so good with that analyst job. And I remember thinking, oh, well, well, what do you recommend? And she said, personnel. And my initial reaction, and I'll never forget this, was, oh my gosh, that's easy. Sure. Okay. And so then became the journey. And with each role, I've fallen more and more in love with this function. I've seen it evolve over nearly 30 years from being the back office personnel function that was primarily responsible for payroll and ensuring that people were at work at a certain time and leaving work at a certain time, all administration, to today where the emphasis is on well being, mental health, development, and creating places, in my humble belief, where people can come and bring their best selves, often healing, growing, and developing while they do so. So it's been quite an unplanned journey, but a wonderful journey, no doubt.
I think those are the best by far when they're not planned out.
I agree.
So, one thing that struck me as you were talking, it's first of all, I remember the personnel days, so I'm going to date myself there. But, I think it's worth noting that we have seen a shift in HR. We've seen, an understanding that the old guard, you know, we didn't think much about this back, in the 80s about how much time we spend at work and whether that time, from a well-being perspective is serving us well. Financially may serve us well, but from a well-being perspective, could you really quick talk just a little bit about your thoughts on that work-life integration that we seem to have, or maybe better put, work-life balance integration, however you want to look at it?
Yes, thank you for that, Sean. And to be totally vulnerable, I have to admit that I've not always had good work life balance and integration. My daughters can attest to that. There were a number of school events and sporting um, activities that I missed due to my job. And in hindsight, I regret that. And I'm proud of this new generation that's coming in that's looking to strike much more balance. I think that we can get it done. It's impossible to say that you can have everything, and it's a give and a take at any particular time. And I think the magic comes when you're confident in your strengths, you're communicating with your leader, that there's clarity in what's expected of you and you deliver. I think that we can achieve much more balance in the knowledge worker space because we can work anywhere due to the wonderful technology enablement and we can deliver if we just focus on it. And that gets lost sometimes. Many leaders are still locked in that old mindset of they need to see you to make sure that you're performing. And well, I don't think that that is a way to really encourage and motivate. And many companies are seeing that. They're seeing that employees are quietly quitting, or whatever the latest term is, for just resisting the old way of doing things. People want to be seen as humans. They want to be recognized as valuable to the organization, but not as a commodity, but as a person contributing in a meaningful way.
Oh, beautifully said. Beautifully said. I love that. Now, looking at, throughout your lifetime and the fact that, you have found yourself in an executive leadership position, is there a leadership lesson that kind of helps you in your work today? Something that maybe you learned?
Yeah, there were a lot of lessons, a lot of bumpy paths to get here.
Yes.
I think the biggest one for me is really understanding and recognizing the voice of being a leader. I don't think until I truly understood how much people count on leaders to show up. So, as a leader, in my humble opinion, there's a requirement that we have to have a certain amount of belief and fortitude, resilience and engagement and positivity. And when I first started on my leadership path, I thought that I could be a mere human. And that's not what's required for leadership. Leadership, like parenting, is a combat sport, and we have to show up, and we're held accountable to always bring our best selves. And that's a lot of work. And so I find that often I have to remind myself that this is a calling, that there's a requirement for me to bring my best self for my team and for those individuals that I support. And I didn't know that early on. I thought I could show up and do the job, but it's more than doing the work. It's the vision and it's the intent behind the work. And that's what's really, really the differentiator between good and great leadership.
Oh, love it. Yes. And speaking of great leadership, now casting ourselves into this space of, having just a great day overall. And I want to think about this for a minute, because I think that there's so many contributing factors, and when days are tough, recalling like some of these great days and what they felt like and what contributing factors I think can be very helpful. What does your best day look like for you? Like, what kind of work are you doing? What are the contributing factors in
Mm.
your day that are making it a great day?
So I love starting early. And I think one of my favorite days is Monday, because I kick off my week with the 6 a.m. call with my head of HR in India. And so we begin to plan. And often that's a call where we just ideate on some of the artifacts and some of the programs and processes that we want to launch globally. Another good aspect of a day could be coaching. I do skip level conversations with all of our extended leadership team. So, of course, I sit with my colleagues on the executive staff, but I make it a point to host a monthly call with our extended leadership team. But I also check in with them just as people to find out how they are. So, a day filled with those check in calls are meaningful. And then also a day when I'm in the office, because we've got a hybrid work and we only go into the office 2 days. And so for me, those are two highlight days. It's not Monday, so I'm kind of building all my days together, but just seeing everyone and feeling that energy. There's something to be said about working with really smart people that enjoy, no, that love what they're doing. There's an energy around that. We find ourselves laughing, we find ourselves smiling at each other. I've not always experienced that. And so for me, that would be a good day. Kicking off with a strategy build call, having coaching conversations throughout the day, and then connecting with my colleagues in person. I think that that's a pretty good day for me.
Oh, that makes total sense. So, when you think about helping leaders navigate the future of work, Why is this an important project for you to take part in?
I've been working for quite some time. I've seen decades of bad HR. I've worked on some really great teams with some amazing, innovative leaders, but I've also seen the other side of that. And I think for me, what's so important and what's important now is that we remember to put the human back into the aspect of human resources. Now, I've been saying that since 2016. I co-facilitated a keynote, and that was the title. And I'm still hanging on to that the function still has a long way to go to really bring the humanness in. And I've got a leadership model that I've been introducing, and it's core. So I was recently certified as a yoga instructor. Don't laugh. And it was through Core Power Yoga. And as I was going through that intensive program, I learned foundationally that everything is about core. And as a leadership practitioner, we hear about a lot of leadership competencies and attributes. And I came up with my own model, which is core, which is compassion, optimism, resilience, and engagement. So a leader can have the best strategy, be an outstanding communicator, and have business acumen. But without a strong core, there's a miss. So, my desire when I think about my contribution to the Working Forward podcast, I want to shed a light on core. I want to remind leaders and people focused managers and HR practitioners that compassion, optimism, resilience, and engagement can be the differentiator in any organization to really make it a great place and a meaningful place for people to show up and grow.
Yes, and I hope everybody listening hears that. Now, what can our audience expect to hear and learn from your episodes?
Yes, I want to bring ideally a few humorous stories about when core didn't go quite so well. I like to describe it as bad HR. And then, of course, share overcoming stories, positive stories where people have demonstrated that core really does work.
Well, Laurie Shakur, thank you so much for being, first of all, a guest on today's show and then taking over and being a host. I am looking forward to all of the episodes that you will be taking over, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Sean. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning into Working Forward. If you like what you hear, please share it with others and make sure you're following the show to not miss an episode. We are available anywhere you get your audio. See you next time.